start the
Somebody
recording?
can record the video.
Started. Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you, sir. Thank you.
Yes. We will go through the different steps. We will share with you our experiences first, but before we do, we will talk about some terminology, explaining the different terms in this field, where Nagarajan is going to talk, and then Mohan is going to talk about the different sources, and then Subhash is going to explain what a literature survey is and what is it not, what to do and what not to do. Then Richa is going to take us through an illustration of how to search papers and which papers to accept and which papers to reject and what are the criteria of that rejection. And finally, I'm going to end with a note on how to document the different literature and the way forward. So I think we can get started. Naga, we can get started. Yeah.
Hi everyone. Good afternoon all. I'm Nagarajan. So actually we would like to start with a statement that the literature survey is not searching for some information on Google. Actually on Google search engine, we will show the most popular results rather than the most relevant results, which is what we need actually for our research. Actually, what do we mean by a literature survey? It is actually a survey of technical literature that is authoritative in nature, comprising the scientific work carried out by research scholars, professors, and the people from academic associations across the world. Actually, literature survey helps you to discover what are all the informations that are already available on the topic that we are going to work on, and where are the gaps and where it is that we can contribute. Those things can be answered during the literature survey. Actually, there are some common terminologies. Next. So there are some common terminologies that are associated with the literature survey. Can you go next slide? Yes. So these are some common terminologies: scientific journals, publishers, DOI number. What do we mean by impact factor, Hutch index, and
Sorry to
citation?
interrupt you,
We'll
sir.
see.
Uh,
Yes.
Sir, your voice is not coming clear.
Now it is fine.
Yeah, sir. Yeah, they're fine.
Yeah. So now we are going to look at some terminologies that are associated with the literature survey. So these are some terminologies: scientific journals, publishers, DOI number, impact. What do we mean by impact factor, Hutch index, and citation? Those things we will see one by one. Next slide. So in this slide, you can see the title of your journal publication and other other author details. So which was published in your journal Scripta Materialia. Actually, a scientific journal is a publication, is a periodic publication that comes in volume on a regular basis. So you can find those details below the at the journal title. So you can find the volume number is 201 and we can find the page number. And Elsevier, here we can see Elsevier on the left side. Elsevier is a publishing company which publishes the article of this journal, and there are many such journals under Elsevier, and there are many such publishers like Elsevier, and some of them we will come across in the upcoming slides. And left corner you can see Science Direct. Actually, Science Direct is an online database managed by Elsevier where they store the digital copies of the journal publication. And on the bottom of the slide we can see the keywords. Actually, keywords will tell us what the content of the article is about. So we can use these keywords to search for some other relevant articles using appropriate searching tools. So above the keyword you can see the DOI number of the article. Actually, DOI means digital object identifier. Each article has got an unique DOI number using which one can directly access the article even though the URL of the text resource gets changed. So using if we have DOI number, we can directly access the journal article. The next slide. So if we click on the journal title, so it will get into we will get into the journal homepage. It will show about journal information and where we can also find some terms like impact factor and site score. Now, what do we mean by impact factor? Actually, impact factor, it is like how many times the articles of the journal are being referred by other journal publications. Actually, this will basically give the sense of how often articles from a particular journal, if I take Scripta Materialia, so the impact factor is 5.01. This criteria will give the sense that how often the articles from this particular journal are being read and referred by other researchers. So we can use impact factor to relatively compare two journals in a particular research area. However, we cannot compare the journals across the research area, right? Because there are some research areas with large number of researchers, so that there will be large number of publications, like the third one, the Cancer Journal of Clinicians. So those kind of journals will get high impact factor. Here it is around 508. And there are some research areas with limited number of researchers, so that there will be limited number of publications, like the first two, the Scripta Materialia and Material Science and Engineering. So those impact factors will be low compared to this journal. So it is not an absolute method by which we can say a journal is less important or more important, but we can use this impact factor to relatively compare two journals in a particular research area. If that is the case, if we can take the first two things, the Scripta Materialia and Material Science impact factor. We can say the one with the high impact factor, the articles of the journal of this Scripta Materialia from this journal are being accessed and referred by r- researchers more often than the second journal, Material Science, and because the impact factor is high. So you can also find one more criteria like impact factor, which is site score. Actually, site score calculation is based on the Scopus data, whereas the impact factor calculations are based on the data from Web of Science, among which impact factor is the one which is most commonly used. Actually, I said Scopus and Web of Science. Those are the online databases which you can, where you can get digital copies of the scientific articles, like Google search engine, Google Scholar search engine, not Google search engine. So the next thing is Hutch index, about Hutch index. Can you go to next slide? So Hutch index is something that shows how many times a particular author's publication has been cited. So here I have shown three authors, first two authors from same research area, the third author from different research area. Actually, the Hutch index calculation is based on how many papers have been published by the particular author and how many times those articles have been cited by other publications. So based on these two factors, the Hutch index is calculated. So it means that if you find the author with an high Hutch index, which indicates that the publication of those other are being read and referred widely. Again, it is like an impact factor. We can use it to compare two authors in a particular research area, but it would not be a fair comparison if we compare two authors from two different research area, where the third author from different research area, which is from political philosophy, he has he has high Hutch index, high citations. So as I said, it is like impact factor. We cannot compare two authors from two different research areas. So here we can see the citations. The citation here is one number is given. Actually, total number of citation which was obtained by the publications, overall publication by this author. So this is about citation. Then I10 index. I10 index is the number of publication with at least 10 index. So this author has 91 publications with at least 10 citations, 10, 10, 10 publications with the 10, sorry, publications with the 10 citations. So can go next. So we can use Google Scholar for to search for scientific articles. So from our research topic, we can get some keywords from our research topics. Then we can use those keywords, and we can use some Boolean operators to narrow down the results and get some appropriate paper that are related to our research. So first, let's say my research topic is analyzing the recrystallization process in the material nickel based superalloy. So now I have two keywords which are nickel based superalloys and recrystallization. Actually, we can use AND operator here. The first the left first one. So we can use AND operator here to get combined result of these two keywords. Here, instead of AND operator, we can just leave a space between these two keywords. So by default, it considers AND operator between the keywords. So we can just leave a space instead of typing A and D. So, so the search result will be the combination of these two the combination of these two keywords. So here we can see number of search results, which is around 3700. So the next thing is, if you want to search for a if you want to search for a phrase, here it is nickel based supralite. Here the combination of three words, we have to put it on the quotation mark. If we didn't do this, then the Google search engine will take the space at the space as the AND operator. Then the search result will need not to be in the same order that I have typed here. So we need to put phrase in the quotation mark, and we can use words without any quotations. So this is about AND operator. So we will get combined results of these two keywords. So we can use OR operators to get some broaden research results. So when we use OR operator between two keywords, we will get three set of results. The first set of results will be having the nickel based superalloy keyword alone. The second set of results will be having the recrystallization keyword alone. The third set of results will be having the combination of both these two words. So we will get more literature, more search results. So here we can see it came around 7 lakh results. So it is a kind of broad literature search if you use the OR operator in between two keywords. Whereas we can, if I want to focus on, so whereas if I don't want to focus on dynamic recrystallization, just say, so I can eliminate the dynamic word from my search results just by putting minus sign before the word dynamic. So if I search like this, the search results will be having only these two keywords but without this dynamic keyword. So I'll get search results for recrystallization but not for dynamic recrystallization. So in this way I can narrow down the results. So here it is like around 3000, now it is around 1000 something. So if I, again, one more thing is, if I don't want to see the modeling results, then I can use the keyword modeling with the minus sign. So if I search like this, then I can get, again, I can narrow down the search results. Now we can see the search results has been reduced when I search like this. So here in Google Scholar, we can see it is cited by 32, it is cited by 329, which actually tell us that how many times this particular that particular article is cited by, has been referred by other successful publications. So those things we can see while searching on Google Scholar. And if you want to get latest updates about the publication which are published with these keywords, so we know some keywords. So if you want to get the latest publications which are published with those keywords, then we can use the create alert option, which is at the bottom of the slide. So you can use that create alert option to get notification whenever the articles are published with the keywords that are close to our research area. So we can create alert for particular keywords for particular authors. If you want to follow particular author, then we can create alert on the name of the particular author. Then we will get the publication of those authors whenever it is available online, and we will get notification directly to our mail. So those things can be done using Google Scholar. The real demonstration will be carried out by Richa, and the various sources and format is going to be shown by Mohan. So Mohan can continue now.
Sir, here we can find out that citation, but H
Yes.
value and that I index, how will
Actually,
come to
H
know?
index for particular author, not for particular publication. So
Okay.
let's say one author has published 10 papers. That 10 papers has received 100,000 citations. Based on these two parameters, the H index is calculated for a particular author. Whereas the citation is this, we can take a particular literature, a particular article, how many times it has been cited by other successful publications. So it is conveyed by the citation index. So H index for authors, citation index for particular publication.
Okay, sir.
Yes.
Yeah, just to add, if you search for the first author's name and type Google Scholar citation, you will go to that page which Nagarajan was showing earlier, where the author name and all his or her publications will show up.
Yes. Just you click on the author, just by clicking on the author name on the Google Scholar, it will show the publication list which was published by the corresponding author, and the other details about H index and height index. Those things will be available if you click on the particular name, if you want to follow that particular author.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir.
Yes. Mohan can.
Yeah, good afternoon, everyone. So coming to the sources of literature, so if you have the literature available in openly accessible to everyone, it is always good. In reality, that is not the case. So this literature is maintained by some of the publishers. So in maintaining the literature, archiving and making available for the authors and the resource persons and maintaining the literature comes with a cost. So to maintain the cost, so the publishers provide some subscription services on payment. So normally these subscriptions was carried out by institute libraries. We can look for what are the available resources, even publishers or the databases, any research resources related to our area, we can check from institute library. And the second resources is the peer sharing, where you can share the literature among the authors in a different forums like ResearchGate or Academia Edu or iMechanica. Such forums provide a platform where authors can share their own personal copy. And there is one arrangement by Ministry of Education. It's called eSodh Sindh. It is a consortium of UGC, AICTE and NLIST, where all these brought together so that the resources, like journals or books which are available in one institute can be available for other institutes which comes under this consortium. So for example, if you are looking for a particular paper of particular year from your institute, but if your institute does not have access for that paper, you can check for that paper in a different institute through this consortium, whether it's available across a different institute or not. If you have happen to available it across a different institute, you can get it through the consortium. So normally there will be a resource person available in every library for the eSodh Sindh. So this is one way where all the literature is available across different institutes, which comes under the Ministry of Education. And next slide, please. So having said that, the literature is not available openly always. So the literature is compiled in the database formats. So the database formats includes having the citation information and also the full text information. So there are databases or the services providers where the citation information is cataloged. Those service providers are Scopus, Web of Science, or SciFinder, Citation. The last one is Google Scholar, which was discussed earlier. So these databases or resources will have the information of the citation. The citation information includes the author and the publication title and the publication journal or the volume page number. Such information will be available. So you can use these databases to sort or to get the relevant literature. So as discussed earlier, so once you have this data available, so these websites will provide a link to the full text access through the corresponding publisher. If you have access, you will be redirected into the corresponding website and for the publishers and the corresponding journal. Next slide, please. So now we had seen that the citation databases which redirect into the full text websites or publishers. So coming to the full text availability, there are publishers, namely the Elsewhere, Springer, Taylor and Francis, so on. So they provide the database of full text for our publications. So Science Direct is such a resource database managed by Elsewhere. Springer has a Springer link, and so on. So some of the publications are published by societies. For example, APS and AIP are the physics societies which publish literature or papers related to the physics. A TMS is a society where the metallurgical community publishes, or IEEE for electrical community. So irrespective of these societies, some of the publications are available in the sub-publishers I mentioned earlier. And also, besides these publishers which provide the full text to the regular research periodic articles, the literature is available in the form of conference proceedings and some of the standard textbooks or the standard volumes or compendiums or research reports and official publications and thesis format. And so we will look in detail of each section or each topic in the next slides. Coming to the publications from the publishers. So as Nagarajan mentioned, so here also I showed an example of Acta Materialia is a journal from the Elsewhere, so which has publications in the Elsewhere publisher. So here you can see the literature information it is provided. Besides the citation information, we can get the full text of the paper if you have access, and also it provides a tab. You can see as a link for the site where the information is exported in the form of BibTeX file, RIS format, or a plain text format, which can be used for referencing in future for your reports. And also it will provide also provides what are the papers cited particular publication. So that is indicated in the citing articles. And so similarly, it will provide the all other meta information as discussed earlier. So one good way to keep track of the literature is to get a citation alert. If you think that this paper is particularly important paper, who is citing in future, if you would like to know, you can get an alert for citing this article through citation alert. And also you can get a subscription alert if you subscribe to this journal or a particular publication. For example, if you subscribe for Acta Materialia, it will show whether a new publication is comes. It will send a mail to you showing that there is a new publication is available, or a new volume. If you subscribe for a new volume, it will show send a mail saying that a new volume is available, where you can look for the available literature. And also, besides this is the online information, you can have the hard copies which are available in the library. All the journals started digitalizing the old papers. Some of them may not be available. If you go to a library, and mostly they will, the section is called back volumes. You can check whether the paper in that particular journal is available or not in the library. So it is a good place where you can look for classical papers in the relevant area, which are essential to understand the topic of your interest. Coming to the next resources like conference proceedings.
Sir, excuse me. Hello. Hello.
Yes, please.
Sir, can you explain me 1 second citation alert?
Yeah, okay. The citation alerts, if you think that your this paper is of particularly interest for your topic area, and you would like to see who are the people or what are the relevant topics are being cited for that particular paper, you can get a citation alert. So you can go to the publisher's website and log in, and you can create the citation alerts there, so that you will someone cites that paper, you will get a notification through the mail.
Okay. Yes.
Okay. So the next resources will be the conference proceedings, where the real discussion on the research topics happens where in the conferences. So those information is documented as proceedings. So most of the conferences release those information as a full text article or abstract services as a proceedings. So some of the proceedings are available online. Some of may be available as the hard copies, and some of the proceedings are part of journal publications. For example, here is ISMANAM conference in a metallurgical domain. It is a conference upon amorphous and metastable and nanostructured materials. So recently they started publishing the papers from the conference as a special issue in Journal of Alloys and Compounds. So there are a couple of classic conferences. They started publishing the papers as a special volumes in a particular journal. So we can look for such information wherever it is related. Sometimes the publishers also notify saying that it is a special issue on some so and so on conference. So if you go to that conference and browse for the papers, so most of the times you will get very related papers in one place. So that is one way of looking for your literature. Other thing is standards and compendiums. So there are a couple of standards like ASTM standards in materials domain. So you can look at those documents to get any information which is well documented of particular interest. And there are certain societies like, as I told, ASTM, and there are separate independent publishers where they maintain the data and have made it available. For example, here I would like to mention MSI Eureka. They maintain the information regarding the phase diagrams. So if you would like to know any information, the phase diagram, like what is the phase evolution and what is the temperature and composition dependent information, you can look into the reports from the MSI Eureka, and where you can get all the collated information together. So this helps if your area of particular interest is very focused. And also you can look for the thesis of different scholars which are published. So ProQuest is one database which provides the indexing services for the available theses. And also, as I mentioned, the forums like iMechanica or ResearchGate or Academia Edu. So where you can also share the thesis information also, or full text of thesis also available some of the forums. And official publications as such, they may be from the research groups or independent labs or groups and institutes or a research report based upon the project. So those publications also can be used for the obtaining your literature. One I would like to highlight is that though the most of the literature is available online, so we can search as the previously mentioned. Most of the times the systematic download of the literature is not encouraged because that violates the copyright and the terms and conditions to the publishers. So it is essential to refine and download the relevant topics of your interest. With this, I would like to hand over to Subhash, who discusses how to do and proceed about the literature.
Hi, everybody. Yeah, till now we have listened to Mohan and Nagarajan, and now at least we can realize that there is a sea of information. From that, even if we search for some keywords, it can give some results like 7 lakhs. So we have to understand what is literature review and what is it's not. So it's not about summarizing the all available resources. Means even it's not about knowing everything related to your field. Okay, so you have to, when you have your one idea, then what one research questions, then you have to, when you are going for literature review, you have to keep in mind some points, like you have to gather some informations and some backgrounds about your research topics. It's not about gathering all information which is available. And then identify the significance of your research topic. Suppose means why you are studying and why this particular research topic is relevant. So when you are reading something or when you're searching for some literature, that key points you have to keep in mind so that you can filter all these 7 lakhs results, even for 4,000 results, you can filter on that points that these are the points are serving or not. Okay, then when you're going to deep in-depth literature review or in-depth reading, then it should serve that what are the concepts are there and what are the key themes of this literature, or what are the key themes are there. Also gaps, so what are the previously available literatures are there, and when some authors are writing one paper, and what is different from others from previously reported literatures, you have to find that gaps. Even some author clearly mentions that these are things which is has done and which is not there. So you have to we have to keep focus on that point, that what are the gaps are available, and even point of conflicts also. Sometimes some literature may agree or may not agree with other authors. So you have to understand what are the point of conflicts and what are the disagreement in the literatures. And finally, when you are doing your literature review, you have to you have to questions, although it's a published literature, so you have to questions the already available literatures, that what they are trying to explain, whether it's making sense to you. It's not about that this people has already published, or this is a very big guy and we cannot questions. We have to questions logically that whether whatever they are trying to actually trying to say or trying to convey, whether it's making sense to you. So it will actually improve your understanding about the literature. Okay, so next actually there is no clear steps like what are the steps to do literature survey, but I think there are some major steps, like when you're starting a literature review, so you should have a clear idea what is your broad topic, or you should have a research questions, or you should have a problem statement. From that you have to start, or you have to start, and from that you have to search some keywords, or you have some keywords, and from that you start your searching. And your search should not be too broad so that it gives too many results, like Nagarajan already showed that it's giving you 7 lakh results. It's not possible to read even 1% of that. Okay, from that you have to narrow down your search, and even it should not be too narrow down that you actually missed the overall some good paper. So you have to initially start with a broad area, and then you have to narrow down your search. Okay, it's always better to start with a review paper. If there is some available review paper, then it's really good. You can get all ideas, all whatever the development is going on in that field. It's come in a single paper. So it's better, but always it's not possible to get the review paper in every field. But if there is some review paper, then it's better to start with that. Sometimes some papers to chronology. Chronology means how the field has started and what are the development going on, and the step-by-step development, and what is the current state of your field, your research field. That's also very important. Then the step is the start reading. When you have searched or you have collected some papers, so you have to read, or you have to sort that. So when you start reading, I think Richa will explain with the demonstration that how to read and how to go through a paper. But basically, when you start reading, you should first go through the headings. What are the headings? And although this author's name, affiliations are not too important, but sometimes it's makes sense that who are the people who are working on this field, and from where they are working, what are the facilities they have. That kind of information sometimes actually gives some advantages. So, but it's not too important, but you should at least on first look, at least when you're reading the title, you should have look into that aspect itself. And going through this, then it is come to in-depth reading. So after your 2-3 search, or after some search, you will get an idea what are the papers which you should read carefully. And from that, suppose if it is a computational paper and there is some derivations and some formulations, some methodology, you have even sometimes you have to work out yourselves that whatever the expressions they have written, how it is coming and how it is derived. So you have to work out on that itself. So that is the in-depth reading. Sometimes some graphs are given there, so you have to extract the number, or you have to replot the graph. So that are the fourth step. And finally, when you have lots of literatures, at least even if it is some 30, 40 papers, you have to store, and you have to actually in a sequential order, you have to store. Suppose you have to categorize into some broad field. Suppose if I consider, you have to categorize according to subcategory and broad category. So that are the things you have to do as a overall. What are the clear steps? Okay, I think Richa will demonstrate how to search the paper, and if I search, how to start with the reading. Richa,
thank you, Subhash. Yeah. Thank you, Subhash. Hello, everyone. So far you have been listening about what a literature survey is, what it is, also to an effective literature survey. So from now onwards, me and Sadeep will talk about these steps in a more elaborated way with some illustrations. So to start your literature survey, you need a question or a broad problem statement which to be answered. And as Subhash mentioned, that this problem statement should not be very broad, otherwise it will be like you are just revolving around a circle which never ends. And it should not be very narrow, otherwise you will end up with very minimal search. Okay, so you have a problem statement, then you need to bring down the keywords. So let me give you a few examples. So here the example one is from my own work. So this is where I started my PhD. So my work is in collaboration with GE, General Electric. So in my very first meeting with GE people, they have discussed the problem that they are trying to understand. So basically they have added boron in their newly developed superalloy grade, and they wanted to understand the role of boron addition in the newly developed grade on the microstructure and the mechanical response of that particular grade. And from this idea, I put down this statement which is the influence of boron addition in the directionally solidified nickel-based superalloy. And if I pick some keywords from this problem statement, of course, boron will go into the keyword, and then the nickel-based superalloys and grain boundaries, since boron is added as a grain boundary strengtheners in the directionally solidified materials. Okay, if we look at the second example here, it is from the Subhash work where he started. So it is about the influence of microstructure on the mechanical behavior of dual phase steel. So if we pick out the keywords from here, so it's a dual phase steel, of course, and then ferrite and martensite. So dual phase has two microstructure feature. Mainly one is the ferrite morphology, other is the martensite morphology, and of course their volume fraction will go into the keywords. Okay, so you have a problem statement, you have your keywords, what you will going to do next. So of course, next slide, please. Yeah, so you will going to search, you will write down those keywords in your search engine and directly search. So there are many search options are available, Google Scholar, Science Direct, Scopus, Web of Science, and so on. Okay, so I will not gonna spend more time on this slide, rather I will take you to the demonstration part because this has already been discussed by Naga and Mohan. So Swadip, could you please allow me to share my screen?
Yeah, you can share it.
Okay, yeah. Able to. Okay, great. Yeah. So I will give you the demonstration on Google Scholar, so which is my personal favorite because you can treat Google Scholar as an academic version of Google. So if you if you write down anything, any word on your Google, if you want to search anything, then it will show you whatever web available relevant to that particular keyword that you have put it. Rather, Google Scholar limited search to the journal, scientific journal articles. So it is basically, this is what it does. So if I write down the major keyword from my work, it's nickel-based superalloy. Let's see what it will show. Okay, yeah. So there are some 39,000 results which it is showing, and yeah, so this is how it looks. So you have till now you have just seen the images, screenshot images of this page. Okay, so on the left hand side there are some filter options. You can use that if you want. Okay, I just want to read the papers which are published in 2021, so you can go ahead and click on this, you will get here. Okay, and I think one of you were asking about the how to see the H index which is corresponding to an author. So you can, okay, let me just go back. Okay, so first of all, let me just bring down this search because it is 39,000, pretty vast. So let me add the other keyword here, boron. Okay, so it is decreased to 5,360 search. And if I add the next keyword, which is grain boundary, yeah, so there you go. Okay, so now if I show you, let me just click on this person who is Contes. Yeah. So if I click on this, yeah, this is his Google Scholar page where you can see his citation, H index, IH index, everything, the papers that that were published, and these are the these are the people, these are the number of people cited this particular publication. So this is how you can directly go to the author's page. Okay, yeah. So here the first bold letters, first two lines are corresponding to the title of that particular paper. And then below that, you can find the bibliography. So these are the authors of this particular publication. And this is the journal, Acta Materialia, and this is the year of the publication. And this is elsewhere, which is the publisher of this particular publication. So I have given the keywords here, what I was really looking for. And what all I have got here is the first paper on the effect of boron on grain boundary character in a new polycrystalline superalloy. And the second paper is about microstructure and hot ductility behavior of nickel-based superalloys in this particular grade with boron addition. Okay, these two looks good to me, and Yeah, if I go to the third paper, it is again talking about some nickel chrome based superalloys. Okay, so and the fourth one is corresponding to the single crystal. So to my understanding, I like the first two papers. So I will just directly click on the first paper that appears here. So this will bring you to the publisher page. Okay, so again, you will get more information on this page about the paper. So again, it is the ECTA, which is the journal, then the volume, then the date of publication, pages, everything is available. Bibliography is available, and yeah, DOI that was explained by Naga. Okay, so you can go and click on view PDF. So here is the PDF version of your paper. So now you have one paper which is relevant, you feel which is a bit relevant to your area of research. Okay, so now the critical step comes in. So you need to read this paper. So since you have already read the title and the journal, everything, so how to read this paper critically so that you will get to know whether it is relevant to your work or not. So what I would suggest is to read the abstract first, because abstract tells you what in very brief what this research is about, what all techniques that they have used in this particular work, and of course their major finding, and that all in very brief. So if I read the abstract here, so they said that they have understood the role of boron in a new polycrystalline superalloy, which is used for a power generation application. And for this, they have used 1 boron-free alloy and 3 boron-containing alloys. So overall, 4 alloys they have studied in this particular research. And then the characterization techniques that they have used is atom probe tomography, and then high resolution secondary NMR spectroscopy, transmission electron microscopy. Good. So these are the techniques that they have used. And yeah, and their primary findings are that the addition of boron result in the suppression of M23C6 carbides and the formation of M5D3 borides. Yeah, so they have mentioned their findings. So the next part, what you can do is, after reading your abstract carefully, you can go ahead and look at the images, because my supervisor, one of my supervisor always tells me that these images will give you the complete picture of the paper, or summarize the complete story of the paper what you are reading it. So I usually prefer to go and look at the images after reading the abstract. Yeah, so to see the image, you first read the caption carefully. So it is saying that these are the backscattered images of fully heat treated microstructure, and they have given all the 4 alloys that they have studied: boron free, low boron, medium boron, and high boron alloys. And you should also read the markings that they have made, what all present along the green boundary. So these are the images which is corresponding to only green boundary region, and the structure nearby the green boundary, and what all present around the green boundary that they have marked, labeled properly. So similarly, you can go ahead and read the images which are down there. And the third thing that I do is to read the conclusion afterward, directly the conclusion. Okay. Yeah, just to go to the conclusion. Okay, so it's a pretty big paper. Yeah, so conclusion said that in their boron-free case, they have observed carbides at the green boundaries, and yeah, these are chromium-rich carbides, and there are some tantalum-rich carbides as well as. And boron, when boron is absent, they have detected carbon-enriched zone, which is around 3 nanometer at the green boundaries, and which present at the gamma and metal carbide interface, which are lying at the green boundaries. Okay. And if I read more conclusions, yeah. Yeah. So in the boron containing alloy, they have observed borides rather than carbides along the green boundary. And these borides are chromium rich M5B3 type of borides. And then they have also observed some boron enriched zone, which is around 3 nanometer in size, and which is preferentially observed these boron enriched zone at the gamma prime and metal boride interface. So these are their findings. So this is how you should start reading your first paper, and then you have to see whether the conclusions, the abstract, and the images are making sense to you. Then you go ahead and read the other section of this article. I hope this will help you to read the article effectively. And if I just go back to the slides, yeah, so these are the steps. This is what I followed. So read the abstract first, then look at the figures, graphs, and tables there in the article, then you read the conclusion. If all of these three making sense to you, then go ahead and read the introduction part, experiment methodology, and what all the sections which are given in the particular article, you can go ahead and read. So you have to read very carefully to see whether this is one of the article which is relevant to your research area or not. So at the end of this complete reading, and let me tell you, it will not take, if you read in this way, it will not take the complete day to finish this one article. And yeah, so at the end, you will be having at least one good paper in your area of research. So with this, I would like to invite Sadev. He will talk about how to get more literature from this one paper and how to arrange that literature effectively. So over to you, Sadev.
Yeah, thanks, Rita. I'll share my screen. Is it visible? Is my screen visible?
Yes,
Hello?
it's visible.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
So as Richa said, once you have a good paper, or let's say you have a bunch of papers, it is very important for us to document or store your content. So first thing that you need to have is a referencing software. You can either use Mendeley or EndNote. I will be doing a small illustration on that after I go through this. You also need to work out all the formulations independently, maybe on your laptop, maybe on a notebook. Make a note of the concepts. Again, there's a bibliography in each and every literature that you read, each and every paper that you read. So you can always backtrack particular references from there and then just copy the whole thing and then put it on Google Scholar like they were discussing, and you will get that exact paper. This way you will get more references from a relevant reference. There are higher chances that the corresponding literature that you search from that relevant reference will also be relevant to your work. Then of course you need to digitize and replot data from those relevant papers, and finally you need to categorize. So I will just give you a small outline of how the interface of Mendeley looks. So this is the Mendeley software. You can also use EndNote, but I prefer Mendeley. You first need to go to the Mendeley website online and create your account. Then you can download the desktop app. This is how it will look. You can see I have quite a few papers already that I've collected over my PhD. Now you can, just like you create folders and subfolders in your computer, you can also do that in Mendeley. Once you have done that, you can categorize papers and put them in their respective bins, respective folders. That will help you to remember. So this is all about if and when at a later point of time you need to remember which paper was where, you can easily find it. On the bottom left, you can also filter the different papers in terms of the keywords, in terms of the author names, in terms of the publications, that is which journal it belongs to, and so on and so forth. Once you select a paper, on the right you can see its name, the name of the paper, the type, whether it's a journal article, whether it's a book section, and so on. You can see from which journal it is. You can see the names of the authors. You can see the year, the volume, the issue, the page number, etc. You can also see the whole abstract here. So just a quick click in one of the papers will give you a quick idea. You can even get the DOI for this particular paper. There's a way to create notes, so that at a later point of time, if you want to, let's say, remember what this paper was about, why you downloaded that paper, you can click on it. There's a contents tab which gives you the overall distribution of the content in terms of the paper. I usually do not use PDFs to read papers. You can directly go double click and then read the whole paper in the same way that which are referred. You can go to the references section and choose a particular reference. Some journals have hyperlinks to the DOI. You can directly click on this DOI and it will take you to the publisher page, or you can directly copy this whole thing over and you can paste it in Google Scholar and you will directly get that corresponding paper. Now, this is the part where you collect and categorize and subcategorize and compile your basically data. This is also data, your literature. But the next step would be, how do I, let's say, import this particular data into a report? How do I arrange my literature? So let's say this is a particular literature. This is on a technique called digital image correlation that I need for my PhD. So I have, you can see, copied the title of the paper. Then if I open a blank document, of course, for this, what you need to do is you in the references section of your Word, Microsoft Word, I'm using Microsoft Word. So here you have to attach the plugin corresponding to Mendeley. So you need to go to Mendeley online and you need to download the plugin for Mendeley, which attaches itself to Microsoft Word, and then you can directly use Mendeley from Word itself. You don't need to go to Mendeley specifically. So let's say that I have written something in my document, then I want to insert a particular reference after that line. I can click on insert reference and then I can just paste that particular paper. You can see that as soon as I do that, that particular paper shows up. You can also go to Mendeley here. You can search from your offline library, or you can go to an external online library as well. So once you do that, you can also obviously use other references and keep on adding. So I'll just show you one. So once you do that, the corresponding reference will add up here. One important note is that there are different referencing styles. Let's say you are submitting to a particular journal. Here I have the METRANS, metallurgical and materials transactions, A open. You can also go to more styles that will show up all the styles that are available online. You can get more styles if you type the name of the journal, and then you can use that that citation style instead. Once you have done all of this, let's say you want to add all the bibliography in the references section, then you can directly add the bibliography after the references. You just have to insert the bibliography and it will add the references in the particular citation style that you have selected. This saves us a lot of work from the old days when we did not have any proper referencing softwares and we had to type out each and every references. A very useful tool is that if you choose to add references or manipulate references later, their order and so on, Mendeley automatically updates them in your Word document. So that is very helpful to document your literature and also to add it to your reports, to your papers, to your thesis, and so on. That is how you document and store your literature. The last thing that all of us, I think all of us are of the same opinion, that a literature survey never really ends. As and when you progress in your research, it's not that you do a literature survey and then you complete your research. These two things always go hand in hand. As you progress more, you will find that you need a more and more targeted literature survey. As you gain more experience, you will keep searching and keep gaining more and more knowledge, because the content online is ever growing. So you need to keep track. As mentioned by other people, you can have citation alerts, you can have alerts from the publisher's web page and so on to keep you updated. So that's all from us. If there are any questions,
Saudi, I think this Punnaswamy has raised hand, I think, and before going to Mohan's demonstrations on LaTeX, I think to cite the LaTeX, how to manage the references. Punnaswamy, you have any question?
No, actually I asked some.
Okay.
My question,
yeah, by mistake.
It is answered.
Okay. Then we can go ahead with the last demonstration.
Okay, so Okay, here I'm going to show how you are going to reference the literature or your publications in your report, for your thesis or any internal report you are going to write in LaTeX. So here I'm going to use the bib files. As I mentioning, so you can download the citation information in the form of BibTeX file. So each information about the paper you are looking is enclosed with a at the rate and providing
Mohan,
the,
are you sharing something? It's not.
Okay,
visible.
sorry. Yeah. Okay, is it visible?
Yeah.
Okay, so the information we are going to get is in the form of a BibTeX file, so which has information about the author and title, journal, year, volume, and so on. So the entries in the BibTeX file are human readable. That means we can edit and manipulate the information if something goes wrong, or we can append extra information wherever required, or we can append a couple of citations together and make a bigger bib file. For example, here I'm showing it's a keyword is at the rate followed by what type of article. So it's an article, or is it a proceedings from the conference. So all the keywords are available, followed by a keyword which identify uniquely for that particular publication. So, and also you can have the information about the file where your PDF for this citation is available on your desktop. So these files can be viewed by package names, citation packages. Something I use is a job ref. Here you can see all these are listed in a columnar format where you have title, author name, or year, and journal name, and the key which is generated using the software, or we can manually generate these keys also. Here is a link for the local PDF here. So if I click here, it will open the PDF which is available in our desktop or laptop locally in your computer. So you have a search option where you can manage your literature locally. So this file, the information from the bib is going to be incorporated in the LaTeX file. So which I have a template file already created. Here I am going to show how it is being done. So it is an article document with A4 paper size as a standards. So all this the document class depends upon what kind of report you are writing. If it is a thesis, it will be a thesis class. If it is a particular journal, and then it is their format. So it is followed by title and the standard LaTeX comments for the beginning the document. So here I have the information text related to one of my research area, phase field simulations in solidification. So here is the keyword which I'm going to use is the /site and followed by the BibTeX key. So the BibTeX key is the same key which is being generated over here, or which we have in the file. So this is going to be used, and so we start adding all the literature, the citations wherever it is required. So in the beginning, you may think that so it is very abstract to relate, remember the author and the year. And then when you read literature and studying the paper, so you will realize based on the authors and year, it is very easy to remember the literature. And also at the end, so in order to get the information, so we are going to use the bibliography as the file name. So ref demo is the file name which I have here. You can see here, this is the information where all the citation information is stored. So I am going to give the name without the extension, and I'm going to give the style. In which style we am going to use? I'm using the sort based upon the numbers which are cited. So there are two things. So when you compile a LaTeX file, so normally you compile a LaTeX file for the generation of PDF, and then BibTeX compilation to link all the references, and then followed by again LaTeX compile for generation of PDF. So I'm going to generate the PDF here. You can see it is telling the references are not available. So for the after that, what I'll do is I'll use BibTeX compilation and then followed by PDF LaTeX compilation. So it's better to a couple of times. If it's a document is bigger, it's better to a couple of times so that all the citations are linked in the references section. So let us see how this file looks in the PDF format. Here you can see it is being cited with the numbering report or a publication. With this, I would like to stop this session, and any questions regarding in this demo, I would like to answer. Saudip, you can take over, I hope, if there are no questions.
So what is the advantage of this over Mendeley?
Okay, I'll tell. Mendeley is a kind of literary. I don't say any advantages. It's up to the end user which one they feel comfortable. That's what I would like to say. But I don't know how the Mendeley information is being incorporated into the LaTeX documents. So that's one point I would like to mention. And also one more thing I would like to mention, as it is being pointed out, the keywords you can see they are shorter, and you can see this file where you have collated information of the literature. So if you store the information, so for example, as I showed here, the PDF is linked to this citation. I can show it is stored in this literature document with a very short name. So if you have a bigger name, some at the beginning, all of us used to store the papers with the file name as the title of the paper. So which will give troubles if you have special characters, and Windows won't allow a long extension of characters in the file names. To avoid and all those issues, it is always better to organize literature based upon any available citation managers like Mendeley or JabRef, any other of your interest. So that's what I would like to mention on top of that.
Okay.
Okay, thanks, Mohan. If there are there any other questions? You're free to ask.
Okay, I would just like to add my sort of parting comments, and I would then like to leave. I hope the students will continue to discuss a little later and throughout the period, talk to each other about learning these kinds of tools and share like you guys did. So I would really like to thank the panel members for putting out such a fantastic presentation. The flow and the continuity and the connection between each topic was really good. So congratulations for doing a very good job. And this recorded presentation will be putting up on one of the channels and sharing the link with the attendees so that they can also share with their batchmates or other students, because we would like this to benefit the entire community. So that those were my parting thoughts. And please feel free to ask and talk to each other because these are, like I said in the beginning, these are from students for the students. So if you have anything, this is the right time and opportunity. But of course, you can also always reach out to them later, and I'm sure they'll be happy to share. Thanks once again, and I'll be signing off.
Okay, thank you everyone then for joining from all 5 of us. Thanks a lot. You can always talk to us later if there's something else you want to talk about. I think we'll end it here.
Sir, is there any WhatsApp group or anything?
You can come to our labs and you can talk to us. We don't have a